Well, good morning to all of you out there that is on Facebook and YouTube. We're going to do another episode today for you. And this is from the Oklahoma Girls Kitchen in Norman, Oklahoma. And today we are going to do some white bread. Just good old white bread that you can slice and have with dinner. You can take it fresh out of the oven and have some good old butter on it, and just doesn't get any better than that. It's this kind of day for bacon because it's a little rainy looking outside. We're supposed to get some storms later, so this is the perfect day for it. And I'm going to show you how to do it. And it's not quick, but it's easy, and it's so worth it. So let's go ahead and get started on it. So I'm going to read you the directions as I go, and then we'll go back over it one final time. So this is just easy homemade white bread, and it calls for to begin with your yeast and your water and your sugar, because the yeast is going to have to kind of get to that foamy stage before you add anything else to it, and you want just a active yeast to start with. So let's go ahead and start with our water, which is 2 cups of water. And it says warm water, and then it said 110 degrees. So what I done was I just put mine in the microwave, 2 cups, and then I tested it with my thermometer. And it was a little too hot, so I had to pour some of it out, add a little cold water to it, and take the temperature again until I got it just about right. So it should be about 110 degrees. And to that, I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of granulated sugar. And like I said, the longest part of this is just waiting for the rising of the bread. So we've got our granulated sugar in there. And then we also need to add our active dry yeast, which is 1 1/2 tablespoons. And this is the magic to the bread. So that's 1 1/2. Now what you can do is when you're making this bread, you can use just all-purpose flour if you don't have bread flour. And I've done both, but I really like using the bread flour because it's just to me it's a finer flour, and it just doesn't really taste different, but sometimes I think the texture of the bread is a little different. So I use bread flour, so you can use either, and it will be just fine. It will taste good, and you're gonna love it. You would probably never know the difference if I put them side by side and let you taste of both of them. So we're gonna go ahead and let this get dissolved real good together. And then comes the waiting part. So what we want to do is we put in our water, our sugar, and our yeast, and we're going to allow this to proof. If you don't know what proofing is, it means you're just going to let it sit and let that yeast start working in this warm water and sugar. And what it will do, it will come to a creamy foam. It'll take probably 5 to 7 minutes, somewhere along there. And you'll see it. It'll look foamy looking. You'll know it's ready. I have had times that I've bought yeast fresh off the grocery shelf, and it wasn't good. It never did foam up. It never did do anything. So, you know, usually it does work, but I've had that happen before, and I had to start over again. So we're just going to let this sit. You can see kind of what it looks like. It's real watery right now. Hadn't started doing its thing, but it will. So once that is done, then we're going to come back and we're going to start mixing in our oil and salt and our other ingredients that we need, and we're going to go from there. So I'm going to see you back in about 5 to 7 minutes. Okay guys, so we're back, and I'm going to show you what this looks like. This is the yeast with the sugar and the water. See how foamy looking it is? That means it's good yeast and it smells yeasty. So we're ready to start adding to this, and we're gonna make some bread. So let's start. Okay, so to this, we're gonna do our oil and our salt. It calls for 1 1/2 teaspoons of salt. So let's get that in there. That's 1. And a half. And then it calls for a 1/4 cup of vegetable oil. So we've got our 1/4 cup of vegetable oil. We're going to put that in there. And we're going to use a little bit of that oil to grease our loaf pans a little bit later. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it out. And then we're going to go ahead and put in our flour, which it calls 5 to 6 cups. And I think the reason they say this is because they just want you to look at the consistency of it. So I'm just gonna kind of put in 5 and look at it. And then I may put in that 6th cup. We'll just see. So, you know, you can't use flour without making a mess. So there's 1. And this again is bread flour that I used, but you could sure use all-purpose. There's 2. Three. 4. 5. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put this under put my mixing bowl in here and let it start kneading, and I'm going to kind of look at it. I think I'm going to go ahead and add about half more to it. It still looks fairly watery looking to me. So I'm going to go ahead and put about 5 1/2. And then if I see I need more, I can add more. But if you guys don't have a stand-up mixer like this, it would probably be a good idea if you got one, especially making homemade bread, because it just makes it so much easier to make this work right. And want this locked in real good. So we're going to go ahead and lower it in there, and we've got it locked in. And we're going to go ahead and start it just pretty gentle. And I'm going to show you what this looks like once it gets all incorporated, and you can kind of see, you know, what it's supposed to look like. It says let it do it for about 7 minutes. And we're going to take a look at it, and then we'll go to our next step. So what have y'all been doing on this Saturday? I'm going to tell you what my day consisted of. So I got up, I went to the grocery store, went to the bank, done my errands, went to the dry cleaners. You can tell this is getting a little tougher now. You can tell by the sound of it, but it's doing good. So I got my errands done, and then I came home, put all my groceries up, got all my stuff started for the day, getting ready for the video that I was going to do. Got my stuff because I'm going to make goulash tonight with a salad and garlic bread. And that's going to be another thing that I'm going to do on a video for y'all, is making goulash. And it's my husband's mother's recipe, and it is out of this world good. You will absolutely fall in love with that recipe. And your kids will love it too. But that's pretty much what I did today. It's been a busy Saturday, and we're just making bread and smelling this yeast, and it's going to fill the whole house. with that smell once it gets in the oven, and we're going to be having us some hot bread and butter. That's going to be our lunch. So we're looking pretty good over here. I'm going to turn it off just a minute. Get it off the dough hook. And I'm going to let y'all see what this looks like. Now this is going to go into, and it looks good to me. I think 5.5 for me was really just about right. Let me get this undone here. Hold on just a minute. You got to have some arms for this. I think I'm going to have help, actually. Hold on, assistant, come help me. My hands are slick. Okay, we got it going now. See, that's what happens when you get old. You get weak, you know, and you don't have that strength like these little 18-year-olds do. But this is what it looks like. You can see the consistency of it. And it's just a really, see how much elasticity it's got in it? And it smells wonderful. So this is what it looks like. And this is gonna make 2 loaves of bread. So what we're gonna do next is we've gotta put it in a separate bowl now, which is gonna be this bowl right here. And I'm gonna put the other half in another bowl. Actually, I think I can put it both in the same bowl and then separate it. But we're gonna go ahead and oil this bowl down, and we're gonna turn this around in the bowl so this dough can get covered really good. We want it to get a good bath in this oil, because this is where it's gonna rise. Now, any extra that we have of this oil in here, I'm just gonna pour out, but I wanted to make sure I got on it really good, because we're gonna flip it around in there and make sure that every side gets oiled good. So I'm gonna pour my extra out, and I'm gonna put this dough in there, and I'm just gonna turn it around to make sure that it gets the oil on every side of it. I'm gonna punch it down. You want it to get on there really good. And it says to cover this with a damp towel. And I guess you can, and I think the reason that they say a damp towel is to keep it, because it's gonna rise so much, I think that would help keeping it from sticking to the top of your towel. I've never done mine with a damp towel before. I've always just done mine with a regular tea towel. You can see the oil on it now. This is gonna rise for an hour. And then what we're gonna do after that, we are gonna take it out of the bowl, and we are gonna knead it back down again. We're gonna punch it for about a minute, and then we're going to put it in our pans, and we're gonna bake it. It's gonna bake not very long at all. I think it's only like 20 or 30 minutes. I'll let you know when we get to that part. But it's simple. I mean, it really is. The longest part is letting the bread rise for this hour. And then once we put it in the pans, it's gonna rise for 30 more minutes. You want it about an inch above the loaf pan. And that's all there is to it. We're gonna have some good bread. So, I'm gonna get this covered with a tea towel, and I'm gonna let it sit right here until we're ready for the next step, and I will see y'all back then. So be sure and come back. Hey guys, and welcome back to the Oklahoma Girls Kitchen. So remember our bread that we were making? Well, this is it. Isn't that just beautiful? And we're not even done yet. So what we want to do is we're going to punch this down. You can see how fluffy and soft it is. We're going to punch it down. That's what we want to do, is punch it down. And I'm going to take mine out, And I'm going to put it on just a little bit of flour. Now, it doesn't call for this, but the reason I'm doing this is because I'm one of these girls that I like a little bit of flour on top of my bread. You know, where you can actually see it after it bakes. I just think it's so pretty. See that? And you can even add more. I didn't put very much, but it talks about kneading this for about a minute, or just, you know, get it all mashed up real good. I like my bread to look more rustic. I don't want it perfect loaves where it's the perfect size, both loaves are equal. That doesn't mean anything to me. What means everything to me is that you don't overwork the bread, where it's soft and it's good, and it's got a beautiful rustic look to it on top. I like those big cracks in it. I think it's pretty, and that's what I go for. So, I think we've kind of got it pretty much mashed down. This is going to make 2 loaves. Okay. So, I'm going to put just a little bit more flour on my board. And I'm going to cut these into 2 loaves. Doesn't matter if they're equal or not. That doesn't mean nothing. So, we'll cut that. Now, we want this, after we get it put in our pan, we want it to rise another time for about 30 minutes. That's what we want it to do. We want it to be about 1 inch above the pan, the loaf pan. And that's what we're going to go for. Okay, I've got this first one ready to go in. And it's going to fill out this pan. It will do its thing. And we'll have a beautiful loaf of bread. A little bit more flour. Y'all don't have to do this flour if you don't want to. I just like the look of the flour on top. Kind of has that rustic look to it already. So, we're going to go ahead and just pat it out. Plop it in here, and then we're going to let it rise one more time. This is a bigger loaf pan. It's wider than this other one, so it will be just fine. You've got one more narrow than the other one. This one is like this. And then, like I said, it will do its thing. Then this one's a little more narrow, this pan. And you've got this. And I have to show y'all my loaf pan. This is my Oklahoma Girls Kitchen loaf pan. Isn't that cute? So, let's go ahead and cover these back up. I'm going to set them over where I have my light on my countertop, and I'm going to let them rise another 30 minutes, and then these beautiful loaves are going to be ready to go in the oven. And we're going to do some good bread eating today with some butter. Don't get no better. So I'll see y'all back in about 30 minutes. Well, welcome back to the Oklahoma Girls Kitchen. So you know, we put the bread dough in the 2 loaf pans, and we let it rise about 1 inch above the loaf pan, right at it. So I popped them in the oven at 350 and I left mine in there about 20-22 minutes, something like that. It depends on how dark you want your bread on top, which I thought this was about right. Now what I did want to show you was we're going to cut one, then I'm going to send one home with my little camera girl because she does love her bread. But this is the one we're going to cut. You can see the bottom of it. See the little creases in it and stuff. It's not perfect, but I don't want it perfect. See, it's got this on the side, but this is the one I really want to show you. Remember how we rolled it in the flour and left some of the flour on top of it? You can still see that flour on top, and that's what I like to see. I like to see that pretty flour on top like that. So let's go ahead and let's cut us some of this bread. Cutting one for me and one for my camera girl. And I'm going to show you what this looks like inside. Now, when you cut down into it, you want to be able to hear that crust cutting, okay? No better sound than that. And there you go. And you can see how tender that bread is inside. You can see how soft it is. And that's my favorite part of the bread, is that end piece. But being that I have a camera girl and she's worked so hard, I'm gonna let her have her choice on what piece she wants because she deserves it. You can just see how tender that bread is, and it smells so good in this house. It smells just like yeast bread. No better smell than that. And you know, you've got that crunchiness on bottom too, not just on top. So we are going to go ahead and get some butter put on this. Oh, I'm telling you what, we've waited all day for this. We didn't eat breakfast and we didn't eat lunch because we were waiting on this bread. And I could honestly eat the whole loaf. Are y'all like me when you go to a restaurant, before you order and they bring you all that bread, you know, whether it's a loaf of bread or if it's those good yeasty rolls, you know, you're full on bread before you even order your meal. You just keep ordering more bread. And if we have our grandkids with us, I can tell you right now, we do go through the bread. We just tell them to keep on bringing it. So we are gonna have some of this bread and we are gonna sit back and watch some movies today. And like I said, there's a few steps to this bread, but you can see it is so worth it in every way. This would be good Christmas gifts or whatever you want to do with it. But y'all get in there and make some of this. And have a good weekend. Tomorrow's church day. Make sure you go. Kind of feeds the soul, makes it a better week for you. And until I see you again in the Oklahoma Girls Kitchen, which will be real soon, I wish you a teaspoon of love and a heap of happiness. Bye, y'all.